All right, so you've sent over a whole stack of stuff about Tata Elxsi, huh? Annual reports, earnings call transcripts, the whole shebang.
Looks like someone is doing their due diligence.
You bet. Our listeners really looking to understand Tata Elxsi's business model, like how they fit in the tech world, what makes them tick.
Their competitive advantages, what they're doing right, what might be cause for concern.
Exactly. So we're going to break it all down. No jargon. Just the key insights to help our listener get a clear picture.
Sounds like a plan. Tata Elxsi, they've come a long way from their start back in 1989.
Seriously, starting with embedded systems and software.
Yep, but they've definitely evolved. There are major players now in automotive, broadcast, and communications, even healthcare.
And not just some small local company.
No way. They have a global presence in 16 countries. 16, that's impressive.
16 countries. Wow, that's huge. Their business model must be pretty savvy to operate on that scale.
It is. From what I'm seeing, their software development and services division, that's their main revenue driver. Makes sense with all the digital transformation happening everywhere.
It's like they're riding that digital wave. So within that software development and services, it looks like they've zeroed in on three key areas,
Yep.
right? Transportation, media and communications, and healthcare.
You got it. Three huge industries being disrupted by technology, and Tata Elxsi is right in the thick of it.
All right, so let's unpack these one by one, starting with transportation.
Okay, so transportation, they're heavily invested in the electric vehicle boom, which is...
Yeah, everyone's talking about EVs.
Right, and they're already working on things like software-defined vehicles, SDVs. It's pretty cutting-edge stuff.
So they're not just adding software to existing cars, they're shaping the future of vehicles.
Exactly. That forward-thinking approach, that's part of their advantage. But there are some hints in the material about potential slowdowns in the sector, though.
Slowdowns, like what?
Well, it sounds like they're a little concerned about how the overall economy might impact things. Things are a little uncertain right now.
Yeah, can't ignore the bigger picture. So maybe some bumps in the road for transportation. What about media and communications?
Things are a little less clear there. There's definitely been a slowdown in that sector recently.
So tougher market.
Yeah, but Tata Elxsi, they're still a significant player.
So how are they approaching it? What's their strategy?
Well, their focus is on network and operations transformation. It's about helping companies in that sector become more efficient, reduce costs, streamline things.
Which is exactly what companies are looking for when things are a bit shaky.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about making those behind-the-scenes improvements that make a big difference.
Okay, so less flashy gadgets, more about practical solutions. What's a good example of that?
Their Neuron platform. It's all about autonomous network solutions. Maybe not as exciting as, say, a self-driving car, but just as important for their clients in that industry.
I see. So each industry, different approach. Makes sense. And then there's healthcare and life sciences. It seems like they're just starting out in that area, but the growth potential is massive.
Totally. They're really betting on AI and digital tech to revolutionize healthcare. Think about connected care, personalized treatments.
And making healthcare delivery more efficient. That's a big one.
Huge. And they're putting their money where their mouth is. They partnered with Draeger Medical to set up an offshore development center.
An offshore development center. So a team of experts, but based in another country.
Exactly. It's a smart move. Access to a global talent pool keeps costs competitive.
Clever. Shows they're serious about this healthcare push. But hey, before we dive deeper into these sectors, I noticed some interesting stuff about management changes. They brought in two new independent directors, Mrs. Ashu Suyash and Mr. Sumitra Bhattacharya. That could shake things up a bit, don't you think?
New perspectives are always interesting. We'll have to see how their expertise might influence Tata Elxsi's strategy going forward.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, on to the numbers. Their FY 2024 report shows a 13% revenue growth year over year. That's pretty impressive.
Not bad at all. And their profit before tax, they hit over 1,000 crores.
Wait, how much exactly?
1,048.7 crores to be precise.
Wow, that's significant. But hold on, their net profit growth was lower, right? Only 4.9%.
Yeah, that's something to think about. They're growing revenue, but how well are they managing costs as they expand? It's a question worth asking.
Good point. Global expansion, investing in new tech, that can impact the bottom line. And here's another interesting tidbit. Their top 10 clients now make up over 53% of their revenue.
Over half. Wow, that's a lot riding on those relationships.
It is. It's strategy, that's for sure. Building deeper connections with key clients could mean more stable revenue, but also more risk if something goes wrong with those big accounts.
You're right. It's calculated risk. Speaking of risks, let's talk about what sets Tata Elxsi apart. One thing that really jumps out is their design digital strategy.
Design digital sounds catchy.
It is, and it's more than just a slogan. They're weaving design thinking into every tech solution they create. It's about understanding how people use technology, making it intuitive and enjoyable.
So it's not just about functionality, it's about the whole experience.
Exactly. They're not just building a car, they're designing how you experience that car.
Interesting. So that's one of their key differentiators. And we can't forget their years of experience with outsourcing and offshore delivery. They've got that down to a science.
Absolutely. It gives them an operational edge. They can deliver high-quality services at competitive prices.
Efficiency and cost effectiveness, that's a winning combination.
Oh.
Oh, and remember that project health indicator tool we mentioned earlier?
The PHI, yeah, that's a great example of how they manage projects. They're meticulously tracking progress, making sure things stay on track, on budget.
Wait, they have a tool specifically for that. I've never heard of that before.
It's impressive, right? Shows they're serious about delivering on their promises. Clients want that peace of mind.
It makes sense. Okay, so strong foundation, but they're not without challenges. This is a cutthroat industry where talent is king. Finding and keeping those top engineers and designers, that's got to be a constant battle.
It's a huge concern, and the competition is fierce, too. Big IT companies are muscling their way into the ER&D space, often by buying up smaller companies.
Acquisitions, yeah. So Tata Elxsi's got to stay agile, watch their backs, and with all the sensitive data they handle, data privacy and security must be a top priority.
Absolutely. One data breach could be disastrous for their reputation. They have to be incredibly vigilant. Robust security is non-negotiable in this game.
No room for error. Now, one thing that really impressed me is their commitment to sustainability. It seems like they're going above and beyond to be environmentally and socially responsible.
They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Right. They're focused on shrinking their carbon footprint, building sustainable supply chains, even supporting social responsibility initiatives.
And get this, they've set a goal to be carbon neutral by 2030. Ambitious, but it shows they mean business.
That's a powerful statement, especially for a tech company. It signals their values and their long-term vision. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part. Their evolution, their business model, those key management changes, financials, sustainability, and we've highlighted some potential red flags too. Before we move on, what stands out to you as the biggest takeaway so far?
Well, what intrigues you most? We've laid the groundwork, but now it's about connecting those dots, understanding how these pieces might shape Tata Elxsi's future.
That's a great point, and that's exactly what we'll be doing in part 2. We'll analyze their competitive positioning, their growth potential, and see if their strategies are enough to keep them ahead of the pack.
Welcome back. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves thinking about Tata Elxsi's future, let's circle back to those potential red flags. We talked about the competition heating up, especially with big IT companies moving into ER&D.
Right, those big players can be real game changers, which makes their design digital strategy even more crucial, don't you think? It's not enough to just keep up, they need to stand out. But is design digital really enough to be that differentiator?
It's more than just a buzzword, trust me. It's about baking design thinking into every solution, every level. It's like they're not just coding, they're crafting the whole experience, thinking about the user, making even complex tech feel intuitive.
So it's like they're not just building a car, they're thinking about the entire experience of driving that car.
Exactly. And that human element, that focus on creating a seamless and enjoyable experience, that's what's becoming so important in this tech-saturated world.
It's what makes you actually want to use something, right?
Yeah.
Not just because you have to.
Exactly. And that user-centric approach, it's a big part of their competitive advantage, but it's not the only thing. Remember their expertise in outsourcing and offshore delivery models.
Yeah, we talked about that. Makes them super efficient.
Right. It's a major reason they can offer high-quality services at competitive prices. And then there's that project health indicator tool, the PHI.
The PHI, yeah.
Yeah.
That shows they're serious about keeping things on track.
Right. It's all about meticulous attention to detail, quality control. It's a real game changer in this industry.
Clients must love that, knowing their projects are in good hands. Sounds like they've built a pretty solid base. But even with all that, they're in a landscape that's constantly shifting. How do they stay ahead of the curve? What about their corporate governance? Are they structured for this kind of fast-paced world?
Well, their board composition is definitely interesting. Those two new independent directors we mentioned?
Right.
They could bring some fresh perspectives, challenge the status quo. Plus, their existing board members have a diverse range of experience, which is so important for a company navigating such a complex landscape.
So they've got the brain power, but do they have the systems in place?
It seems like it.
Yeah.
They have robust committees for key areas, audits, risk management, even corporate social responsibility.
Oh, that's good to hear. So they're not just paying lip service to this stuff.
Nope, they're integrating it into their governance structure.
That's encouraging. But it's not just about systems, right? It's about the culture. Do they encourage innovation? Do they prioritize ethical behavior?
From what I see in these materials, they seem to be genuinely committed to creating a culture of excellence, both in the work they do and how they do it. Their sustainability initiatives, employee programs, focus on long-term relationships with clients. It all points to a company that wants to do things the right way.
Sounds promising.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the competition for a second. It's not just those big IT companies, right? There are tons of specialized design and tech firms out there.
Tons. It's a crowded market, which means Tata Elxsi has to be crystal clear on what makes them unique. What's their special sauce? What can they offer that nobody else can?
And it seems like they get that. They're always investing in R&D, expanding their skills, looking for new ways to bring value.
They have to. The second they stop innovating, they start falling behind. Which brings us to the big question. Growth potential. They've got a good track record, but can they keep it up? What are the factors that will determine their future success?
That's the million-dollar question. What do you think?
It's complicated. It's not a simple answer. A lot depends on their ability to keep innovating. Can they stand out in this crowded market? Can they attract the top talent? Can they maintain that focus on those key growth areas? Automotive, healthcare, and media and communications.
So they're juggling a lot, trying to stay ahead of the game?
Exactly. They need to be agile, they need to have foresight, and they need to be willing to take some calculated risks. And don't forget about their acquisition strategy.
Oh, right. Acquisitions. They've made some strategic moves in the past.
Yeah, and that could be a big part of their growth moving forward. But acquisitions can be tricky. They need to make sure those new pieces fit, that they can actually leverage those strengths without disrupting everything.
It's a balancing act. But if they can do it right, acquisitions can be a major boost.
For sure. So we've talked about their competitive landscape, their approach to corporate governance, and their potential for growth. They've got a lot going for them, but also some serious challenges. What are your initial thoughts on Tata Elxsi's competitive positioning? Does design digital truly set them apart? And how do you think they'll handle those challenges we've talked about? Think about that for a minute, because in part 3, we'll wrap things up by looking at the future of Tata Elxsi. We'll discuss what this all means for potential investors, and we'll leave you with some things to ponder as you continue exploring this fascinating company.
Okay, so we've really dug deep into Tata Elxsi over the last 2 parts. Their business model, their successes, the things they're up against. But now let's zoom out a bit. Big picture time. Where does a company like this go from here? What does the future hold?
Well, predicting the future is always tough, especially in tech. Everything moves so fast. But we can look at the trends, right? The trends shaping those industries Tata Elxsi is focused on. That can give us some clues about what might be coming next.
Okay, so let's start with automotive. That's a big chunk of their business. They're all in on EVs and those software-defined vehicles, those FDVs. But what's after that? What's the next big thing?
It's getting harder to separate everything. Connectivity, self-driving tech, electric vehicles, even ride-sharing. It's all blending together. Tata Elxsi, they need to not just keep up, but stay ahead of the curve, anticipate where those car companies are going, and have the solutions ready.
And it's not just the tech itself, right? Sustainability is a big deal in the car world now. Emissions, eco-friendly manufacturing, all that.
Absolutely. And that's where Tata Elxsi's commitment to sustainability could really give them an edge. They're already experts in things like lightweight materials, energy-efficient systems, sustainable manufacturing. That's a big plus for car companies trying to hit those green targets.
So being ethical can actually be a competitive advantage.
Interesting. Okay, let's shift gears to media and communications. It's been a bumpy ride for that sector lately. How does Tata Elxsi deal with all that uncertainty? Being flexible, that's key.
Right.
They need to adapt to those market shifts, spot the new opportunities, be ready to change course if things aren't working. Their focus on transforming networks and operations, that's smart. Companies are always looking to streamline, save money, especially when times are tough.
And what about those big disruptors? 5G, the metaverse, all that. How does that fit into their strategy?
Those are the wild cards. 5G, it's going to create so many new connected experiences. Tata Elxsi needs to be ready with solutions for content delivery, network management, making sure the user experience is smooth.
It's like they need to build the pipes and make sure the water flowing through them is perfect.
Exactly. And then there's the metaverse. Still early days, but it has the potential to completely change how we interact with technology. That could be huge for companies like Tata Elxsi, but it's uncharted territory. Lots of risk, but also potentially massive rewards.
Okay, last but not least, healthcare and life sciences. It feels like they're just dipping their toes in, but there's so much potential for disruption there. Digital tech could change everything, from how we see the doctor to how new drugs are developed.
Yeah, they're definitely on the right track. Using AI and digital tech for things like remote healthcare, personalized medicine, making healthcare systems more efficient. The challenge is staying ahead of the curve, building those partnerships, and making sure their solutions are actually solving real problems.
So it's all about execution now.
Exactly. Having a great idea is one thing, but making it work in a complex field like healthcare, that's the real test.
Looking ahead, it's clear that Tata Elxsi can't afford to stand still. It's adapt or die, right?
Pretty much. Their ability to innovate, change direction quickly, and keep anticipating what's next will determine their success.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive. Their financials, their commitment to sustainability, their strengths, the challenges they face. As we wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway you'd want our listener to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Tata Elxsi is at a crossroads. They have a solid foundation, a clear vision, and a willingness to embrace the future. But the road ahead is going to be challenging. The decisions they make over the next few years will determine whether they become a true leader in the digital transformation game or get left behind.
So it's a story that's still being written. It'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Abby?
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Tata Elxsi. We hope this is giving you a better understanding of their business, their potential, and the forces that will shape their future.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. Dig deeper into those materials, ask your own questions, draw your own conclusions. The world of technology never stops evolving. And the only way to truly understand it is to keep learning and keep asking questions.